Hello and welcome to the Boilermaker Lounge Special Edition Beyond the Rails. I am your host, Sam Sprunger. As always, my co host, Grant Flora. Grant, we have a really good conversation up for today.
We do. Excited to get to talk with Walter Jordan today. It's going to be just really fun to get to know you better and really fun to get your perspective on some things.
Yeah,
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you.
we've like Grant just said, we've got former Boilermaker Walter Jordan. Walter, you graduated a few minutes ago from from West Lafayette, but can you kind of talk about I saw you were born in Alabama, correct?
Yes.
And then how did your family make your way to Fort Wayne for where you went to high school?
Very interesting story. I'm one of 10 kids, and my parents was in Alabama, born in Alabama, and I was born in Alabama. I'm the seventh child. I was the last one born in Alabama. But my dad, being a father of 7 kids at that time, and the oldest of his own family that had 10 kids, and so he was working just to help support his family, and then his parents basically.
Yeah.
So at that time, they said, "Hey, go north and let's go find some work, better pay." And my dad left us all in Alabama and went north and landed in Detroit first. And I was a couple months old and got a job. And went back and came back and got us. And then we moved to Detroit. And I don't remember none of that. And then we moved to Fort Wayne. And then my 3 younger siblings were born at that time once we got to Fort Wayne. That's how we got from Alabama to Fort Wayne.
So Fort Wayne via Detroit, Michigan.
Absolutely.
So okay, you grew up then and went to school somewhere close to where actually both Grant and I grew up. He grew up in Noble County, but I grew up in DeKalb County. But can you talk about the '74 season where you won the state championship for Northrop? Can you kind of talk about the process of that and how that got you onto the radar of colleges?
It was just amazing season. Of course, we played DeKalb Barons every year. We played, I think, Noseville in the regional one year. They were very, very good. Hoopin Gardner, I think it was the kid's name. But just some, big time basketball back then because every game was sold out. We played Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne. It's sold out.
Wow.
But it was amazing times for me. It was single class basketball. It wasn't, all this other stuff they got going on now.
Right.
But it was a special time. I had lost my mom a week before the season. And coming into my senior year, I had one scholarship offer. And that was at Edinburgh State University. I was a late bloomer. I was coming, but I was still just very, very raw. So I had one scholarship offer. And I just loved to play. We just loved each other. And it was a special time because after I lost my mom, I felt like my angel. She was my angel. She guided me through that. But prior to coming to Northrop, I was going to go to Fort Wayne Central High School because that's all my siblings went to Fort Wayne Central High School. And that's when busing started. You guys remember the racial tension and busing in 71? I always tell people the movie Remember the Titans. That's our story, but it's just basketball. That's literally my high school story.
Wow.
The first day of school, we didn't want to be there and they didn't want us there. And kids fighting and throwing out through the windows and sticks and chains. I mean, all part of that. My first class at Northrop. And then athletics brought us together, with the football team. And I was a manager, believe it or not, on the football team because I just loved football. But my parents weren't going to let me play because I weighed about $110. But it was such an unbelievable experience. Just seeing the older guys that was above me that was champions in their own rights, who were all Americans. Rick Mackley went to IU, an unbelievable track star. You had people like Fred Arrington, Larry Kennedy, all these guys, big time athletes, right? And Jordan McCowan. And I'm a sophomore, so I'm just soaking that all in. But what happened to me in that sophomore year was the coaches believed in me because of my older brothers. They had taught my brothers at Central High School. Most of those were faculty at Northrop. So they kind of like favored me, like, hey, he's a Jordan. He's got standards. There's certain standards and principles that the Jordan family holds, and we know that we don't have to worry about him. Let's try to help him as much as we can because I love to play. So I ended up playing on the C team, the sophomore team. I was playing like 4 or 5 games a week just because I was playing on those teams.
Wow.
So getting better. And as people was looking down at me, damn, why are you playing, down the C team, man? You're not even on JV. You just, no, I'm playing, And so I just started to get better and better. And then when my mom passed a week before my senior year, there's something special was going on because my junior year, we had the more talent than anybody in the state. We were unbelievable. My junior year, 24-3, got beat in the final game by Anderson, who was undefeated that year. But we ended up coming back. We had three seniors coming back: Mike Muff, Tom Madden, and myself. And we just wanted to do something special. We just, hey man, nobody's giving us any respect. We weren't even favored to be, top 3 or 4 in the city. But yeah, we knew we were gonna be really good. We really bonded and we got on the road. And first game we got beat by South Bend Adams. And they had 3 Division I players on their team. Got beat by a point. The second game of the season, that's when we knew we were special. So we knew we could play with anybody at that point.
Okay, so when did Purdue come on the radar then? So you're in the middle of is it in the middle of your season then Purdue and some other schools get a hold of you or how did that work?
It was amazing. I thank God I was not a 5-star, 4-star, 3-star because I had no reason to have an attitude or entitlements or anything. I didn't feel any of that. That was or pressure because nobody knew who I was. So basically, I knew that we had to win in order for me to get some respect. We had to win, any of us to get respect. So we had made a bond that we were going to do something special. That was our goal. So I happened to be at IU my junior in summer, my junior and senior year, and my sophomore and junior year. My brothers went to IU. So I was an IU fan, a Jordan McGinnis fan all the way. And so I would go down to Indiana campus and when I was there going to my senior year, I found out that the state championship game was going to be right here in Assembly Hall. And my siblings was going to school there. So that was like, oh my God, we got to get back here. We got to get here, right? So that was my whole vision. So I went back home. I got back home. I started selling that vision to my teammates. Hey, man, March 23rd, we're going to be playing a state championship. I knew the day, this is what we're going to do. And they started to buy in, started to believe, because I talked to them. They said, get out of here, Walt, get out of here. And by the middle of the season, they were like, oh, whoa, wait a minute, maybe we can do something. So that started the dream and the vision, because I wanted to play in front of my siblings and play Assembly Hall. Man, that was like a dream to me. But IU, they assumed that I was going to go and play at IU. Everybody did because my 2 brothers and sisters were attending IU, and they knew I spent a lot of time in Bloomington. Purdue even assumed that. So they kind of like half-butt recruited me. But we won the state championship literally overnight. I went from having that one scholarship offer. After we played the semi-state, beat Anderson, they was number 1. I had an unbelievable tournament around the state finals. I just went unbelievable. I had an unbelievable. So everybody now, 17,000 people, you know how Indiana basketball is. Every coach in the country watching Indiana basketball.
Yeah.
So literally that Tuesday, because we had Monday off, we won the state, the mayor gave the whole city schools off. So Tuesday when I got back to school, I get a call from the principal, come to the office, well, I got something for you. I get there, literally there's a box of mail, handwritten mail from college coaches all over the country. And I was blown away. So, I mean, and then I wanted to go stay close to home. My mom had just passed. I had 3 younger siblings. I was the oldest one there. So I wanted to, my final 5 choices was Michigan State, Marquette, Purdue, IU, and I forget the 5th one. But those are my final 5 choices. And the reason I ended up going to Purdue because Eugene Parker, to be honest with you, Eugene Parker was somebody I had a lot of respect for, in my opinion, in 1974. He was the best player in Indiana, state of Indiana. And that's ahead of Larry Bird, who I played an all-star game with in 74. And the 74 in high school, and Wayne Walls and all those guys, Eugene Parker was the best player in 1970. I guarded him. I played against him. I watched him. He was unbelievable. And I just had a lot of respect for him because who he was. And so one day he was, I had nothing to do, and he called me up and said, well, I'm going to drive down to Purdue for unofficial. You already did my official. I just need to take another look because I'm thinking about going to Purdue or Tulane. He said, come ride with me. Yeah, I'll ride with you. So I got in the car with him, and And like we never had chat like that. We always admired each other from afar, respected each other. But the conversation was just so rich, and God rest his soul. But he, that's how much respect I had for him. And then we got there. Adi Matthews, you probably don't remember this name, but he played at Illinois. And Adi was a pretty good player in high school. He was one of the best players coming out of Illinois, same class I was. So he was supposed to be there with Eugene. So those two, those Purdue's number one and number two recruit. I wasn't supposed to be there. They didn't know I was coming. So one of the assistant coaches was saying, kept calling me Adi, kept calling me Adi. And I always just laugh. I would never say anything. Then when I got ready to leave, Coach Shaw said, "That's Walter Jordan. What are you doing here, Walter Jordan?" Because they said, "I heard you was going to Indiana University," and I hadn't decided anything yet. But on my way back home, I really liked the visit. I liked the campus. I liked what Eugene's vision of what it was going to be. And I was 6'5" at the time. They recruited me to play guard, guys. I was supposed to be a guard. That's what I was being recruited as. So, long story short, I never played guard. But when on the way back home, Eugene kept saying, "It's going to be me and you in the backcourt, you and you in the backcourt." So I signed on for that. So that was the reason why I ended up going to Purdue.
So, well, go ahead. Sorry.
I just got something for you. Obviously, like, things have changed a lot between like back then and today. Can you just kind of give us an idea of what it was like just to be a part of the Purdue program back in the 70s, when, like, obviously with that long ago, like, basketball in itself has changed a lot, the Purdue program's changed a lot. So just what was it like to be on that team?
Well, one of the things that's changed, and people don't talk about it a lot, is the fact that they only took 32 teams to the dance. 32. You had to win the Big Ten to get a bid to the dance. If you got lucky, if you were second in the Big Ten and got in the dance. Think about that. 32 teams, you're easily in Sweet 16.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 32 teams. And back then, the Big Ten was clearly the best conference in the world. There was nobody better than us. Look at the records. Look at the 70s. Look at when I played. Look who we played against. Magic, McHale, Michael Thompson. You talking about Hall of Fame NBA players we were playing against. Every team had NBA players on it. So to finish third in the Big Ten, we never finished any worse than third. We had superior talent. We had unbelievable talent. Think if we had opportunities to go to dance every year, and what could have happened. We had the size. We had the best combination backcourt there was. We had Eugene, Bruce Parkinson 1 year, Jerry Seasteen, Kyle Macy, Wayne Walls, Joe Perry Curl. I mean, Tom Keffer. We had some depth. We had some players. We could play with anybody. And every night we had to lace them up. We played, of course, playing against Larry Bird and Magic Johnson coming in Mackey. And, that experience, man, I tell people anytime. I matched that era. Indiana was undefeated 2 years in a row before Scott May hurt his arm against us. Indiana was the best college team. We lost to them 3 out of the 4 times we got lost to them by a total of 6 points. Oh, wow. And they're the best team in the country. And see, people only talk about that. Okay, how good were we? We were freshmen and sophomores at that time. They were juniors and seniors when Scott May was player of the year. So, and they had 6 guys at IU that got drafted in NBA. And people don't talk about how good that era was. I'll take our era against anybody's era. And at Purdue, and all respect those other teams, but if they played in our era and vice versa, I like our chances because we had everything. Joe Barry Curl, Wayne Walls jump out the gym, play great defense. Eugene Parker, I mean, man, Bruce Parkinson, Braden Smith just broke his assistant record. That's how long. That's how long he was at the top of the ladder. And Kyle Mason for 1 year before he transferred, and Jerry Seasteen played forever in the NBA. I mean, we didn't do too bad, So.
Can you talk a little bit about when you get onto campus and you start playing major basketball? I mean, like you mentioned, this was the Big Ten in the 70s was the premier conference. I mean,
clearly.
It certainly was. Can you talk about, were you ever awestruck to where it was a little bit overwhelming for you, or was it, okay, we played in front of big crowds playing in the state championship and state tournaments that it didn't maybe phase you as much, or was there an adjustment period?
There's always an adjustment period because I never thought of myself as being a star or anything like that. I was playing the game I love and just competed. I love to compete. They used to call me cheerleader because I'm fired up to play. I used to have to come down before I play, not get up before I play. Just I'm ready. I'm ready on Monday for Saturday. That's just how I play because I just love the game. I love to compete, no matter who we were. I always pride myself on having my best game against the big dogs, the Magic Johnson, Kevin McHale, or IU. I always pride myself on playing big in those big games. So I look forward to it. So we won the state championship. That gave me really confidence that, hey, the bigger the game, hey, that's when I want to play. Because I also know that there's some players on your team that's looking for you to give them confidence. So my goal was trying to win. In order for me to win, I have to understand that. So, but when I got to Purdue, my freshman year, I was blown away because I had no clue what it was all about. Seriously. We go from 18 years old, win the state championship in March, and then you turn around in January and you're playing the number one team in the country in Assembly Hall. Still 18 years old. And about ready to piss on myself on national TV. National TV. 18 years old playing against All-Americans and the best team in America. A few months later, it kind of gets your attention.
Yeah.
It kind of gets your attention. And, I thank God that Coach Schaus and those guys had confidence in us as freshmen to put us out there like that, because 3 freshmen starting back then in the Big Ten, and Purdue had just won the NIT the year before. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
In your 4 years at Purdue, let's see, I'm looking at the bio here, and you're twice a team MVP, 3 times you're all Big Ten, 2 times you were in the first team all Big Ten. What do you attribute that to? Was it your work ethic, your teammates, your coaches, combination of them all?
It's definitely a combination of them all. In order for you to do anything like that, your teammates got to believe in you. And that's why when I came as a freshman, you had guys like Jared Nichols, who's a veteran. Jerry hurt his knee, Gerald Thomas, and those guys were really good players. They played big roles at Purdue before I got there. Yeah. And they were all playing the same position now because they stuck me at small forward, and then they found out I could rebound a little bit, so they kept me there. But because Coach said, you want to play or you want to play guard? That's I want to play. Because Jared Nicholson got hurt. But those guys have embraced me, and those guys, wasn't jealousy. They supported me. And I don't know if I could have done that as a senior and a freshman coming in. I think that, but I was humble enough that I know it wasn't about me. It was about us trying to put the best team out there on the floor. And sometimes I always say your best players are not your starters. They're your finishers. Mm-hmm. And so I understood that from the start, because like all I wanted to do was win, man. I tell you, I think about a lot of the opportunities we had to really to do something special at Purdue and win. So that's why I get so excited about seeing these guys do something special, because they look back and they say, "Wow, this was something."
Do you at any point go, "Man, I wish we had that team playing in now"? Because then we would be in the tournament every year and we'd have a chance to do something.
Yeah, I wish we had the same opportunities, no question about it. I mean, absolutely. But no jealousy or none of that, because that's how God has had a plan. That's the bottom line, and I have no regrets. I had a tremendous career, and the relationships we built, man, and the Boiler family is they're off the chain, they're off the chart, and I just love the 98% of us across the world, across the globe.
Yeah, Grant, not too shabby of a rebounder. Walter is third for Purdue with 882 rebounds in his career. So not a bad rebounder, Walter.
Not for a little skinny, scrawny guy like me. Yes,
for a guy who was brought in to play guard.
Exactly. I just took pride in it, man, and I just we just went at it, man. And I just enjoyed battling, man. Just competing. I tell kids all the day, man, just go compete, man. Just embrace competing, no matter what it is you're doing. Compete. God wants us to compete. I don't know what I would do. I wake up and I don't have any goals and something I can look forward to that I can compete to make myself better or help somebody. To me, it just doesn't make sense. If you're the only one winning, you ain't winning.
Right.
So you should be inspired to go help somebody else win. So.
Well, I can already tell you, both of you, we're going to go in a little bit of overtime because we're just getting started, and this is some great stuff. So let's talk about after you've graduated Purdue. First off, 2 seasons later, they end up going to the Final Four. Thanks, guys. But no, but you move on. You had a little cup of coffee in the NBA with the Cavs, but you did play some professional basketball afterwards, or after Purdue.
Yeah, one of the things that people don't know, after I left Purdue, I got drafted by the Nets, and I was the last player cut. Kevin Lockley was the coach.
Oh.
And that NBA had went from a 12-man roster to 11-man roster because of financial difficulties at the time. The Knicks had sued the Nets because of the invasion of territory because of the Netherlands. So all this was happening when I got drafted by the Nets.
Of course.
So I played the exhibition season. I was third leading scorer in the exhibition season. And then they cut me because the guy that they brought over from New York, the Nets had to pay him because he was on the last year of his contract. And Knicks weren't going to pay him. So there was a deal they made for the lawsuit. That guy was named Phil Jackson. So Phil played this last year, and I was released. I was released after all the exhibition games. And I had got my apartment, and I was all set to go. And I was called to the room and said, "Gotta let you go out financially." And I look at guys like Bernard King, and those guys come up to me and say, "Well, don't you ever quit. You're supposed to be in this league, and you belong here." And I have so much respect for that. But it was tough for me to understand the first time the business side of basketball. That really hurt. But what all people don't know, also I went to play at a league called the Western Basketball Association. It only lasted 1 year. Unbelievably, it's an upper grade, even over the G League that they got now. Some of the top players, Coach Larry Brown and Musselman, all those guys coached in the WNBA. We had top coaches, and that league only lasted 1 year. I was in the Tri-Cities in Pasco, Kennewick, and Washington, state of Washington. But at the end of the season, I woke up at the middle of the night heading home the next day, and I woke up, I had something called writer's syndrome. My joints and my knees and my elbows and feet had swollen 3 times the size. Nobody knew what was wrong. It took me 5 specialists to find out what was wrong with me. And so I was literally couldn't walk, had to crawl to the restroom for 6 months.
Holy cow.
And so it was a tough, trusting God sometimes ain't easy. But I understood that all I wanted to do at that point in time, and you guys get a kick out of this story, that point in time was to walk again. So I prayed every day, every night. God granted me that opportunity. When I got that opportunity, I went crazy as far as my workouts. I got a call from a guy that had watched me play for 4 years, who recruited me in college, who had just gotten an NBA coaching job. And he says to me, before he was announced that he was going to be the coach, the next day he was going to have a press release. He said, "This Walter Jordan?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You need to be in the league." He said, "I'm going to sign you to a 2-year guarantee contract."
Wow.
That guy was Bill Musselman.
Because he'd seen,
Eric Musselman's dad.
Yep.
And Eric and I are so close to his dad, he remembers that. But that kind of stuff is God. That's how God works. Somebody was watching me and know that I needed an opportunity. And he had watched me play and coach against me. And he said, "I need you on my team." So that made me feel, that still teared me up thinking about it. Sure. God rest his soul, Coach Musselman.
Okay, so then you ended up going to Spain and playing a couple of years. Then you came back and played in the CBA, correct?
Yes, off and on.
Off and on. Okay. Then what was it that finally you decided, okay, I've had enough. I need to retire and go on to something different?
Well, after I played over in Spain, and I just enjoyed Spain so much, I made a mistake. There's something called Run B. Hagen rule at the time. If you play in the NBA and you go overseas, you can't come back to the NBA and sign a contract and then go back. See, but I was trying to negotiate a bigger salary in Spain. So I figured I'll go sign with the NBA, go to training camp, and so they have to pay me more money.
Right.
That was a mistake. My agent didn't tell me that. So the Ron B. Hagan rule wouldn't allow me to go back over to Spain. So I missed out on an opportunity to be in place on the team, the same team that Luka plays on now.
Yeah.
You know, the chance to go play on that team and enjoy life, because I love playing basketball in Spain. You play one game a week, you know, and your body's better, right? Your body's better. You're eating good. People love you. So that's where I probably would end up playing for at least 5 or 6 additional years. But since that didn't happen, I wasn't, you know, NBA teams kept trying to get me to come to camp. But I learned the business at that point. They wanted me to come be a practice dummy, you know, go through the preseason with them and, you know, make them better in practice and all that stuff. And when it comes time for you to give me some guaranteed money, you know, they weren't going to do that. And back then they were paying peanuts compared to what they're paying now, you know, so it wasn't that big of a deal. So I figured I'd get a job and go on with my life.
So then, I forget, what was it? In 86 was your 85, 86 was your last season then with Albany in the CBA. What did you end up doing then? Did you go work or did you start a company or something?
Well, see, that's the magic of all this. You know, I played for Toronto in the CBA. Okay. And the reason why I went to play for Toronto was because the owner of Toronto Raptors was the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who I played for. So he wanted me to come play and help. He wanted to be the first one to have a professional basketball franchise in Toronto. That's how they got started. We was the first. But anyway, there's another guy that was coaching in that league who we learned respect for, and that was Phil Jackson.
Yep.
And so here's a story that people talk about sometimes. That's around my circle. In Toronto, right before the playoffs, we're battling Albany Patroons with Coach Jackson for position in the playoffs. So we were going to end up playing them in the first round of the playoffs. The owner, Ted Stepien, fires the head coach the week before we play him. He comes to me and says, "I want you to coach be the player coach. Can you do it?" And I prayed about it, but I couldn't do it because I was too close to the guys. I know the things they were doing that I wasn't going to accept if I was a coach. But as a teammate, I could just turn my head and just say, "Let's go play." So there's some things that principles and standards that I couldn't do it. So I turned it down, but we ended up playing Phil Jackson's team in the playoffs. And at best of 5, they end up winning it 3-2. And Phil says to me after the game, he said, "Imagine if you beat me." And I think about that all the time, because later on in the years on, I said I would have been Phil Jackson. You would have been. But
if only.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, I laugh about some of those stories, man, and I am just so blessed, man. I can't tell you how blessed I've been, and just so grateful for God's favor in my life. So.
All right, that is the end of the first part of Beyond the Rails with Walter Jordan. Such a great conversation, Grant, that we had to cut it into 2 pieces because he had a lot to talk about. So Friday's episode will be part 2 of our visit with Walter Jordan, former Boilermaker in the late 70s. Really a good talk so far, Grant, and we've got another one coming.
Yep, looking forward to it. He's just a great guy and great Purdue representative, I think, of what this Purdue program's about. So looking forward to what he has to say in round 2.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us on this episode of Boilermaker Lounge and the special limited edition of Beyond the Rails with Walter Jordan. We will see you on Friday.